June 2018. We're here in Big Bear again with Richard Messenger, not to be confused with the other Richard. Part 2 interview. So I wanted to ask you about some of the hobbies that you used to do or be involved in, like when you had your Cessna, the airplane. What got you into that? Was it from your model airplanes and experiences like that, or what?
No, I did the models for many years. I formed the Pomona Valley Model Airplane Club, which flies down in Chino.
Okay.
And they're huge now.
Uh-huh.
They used to be up in our end of the woods in Rancho Cucamonga, but they moved down there after we moved up here.
I see.
And I didn't fly them anymore, but okay, one of the reasons we got the Cessnas, we were, Bonnie worked and I worked, and we could do traveling on the weekends. So we did a lot of traveling with the airplane. We went all over. We went as far as Colorado.
Huh.
Flew over the Rockies, then we flew up to Seattle. And
is that non-stop, or do you have to stop when you're going to Seattle?
Don't have to. I mean, it would go 1,200 miles on a tank.
Wow.
So you go a long ways. Got about 18 miles a gallon with it. And it was good. And then one time I flew into Mexico, and I was taking some people down to a dude ranch in Tucson, and we flew down to Tucson, went down into Mexico, and then back up and dropped them off. So that was interesting. But we really got into using the airplane because we did a lot of traveling, and we traveled, like I say, to the far east as Colorado, and as far north as almost the border of Canada, and that was fun.
Did you only have one plane, or did you have a couple, or because I remember you had one.
We had 55 Tango was the first one. Then that was a 4-place, and then we got 8472 Zulu. That was a 6-place plane.
That was the last one you had, probably?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I had a motorcycle that I cut in two, and we put the motorcycle in the plane so that when we landed, we'd have some way to travel.
You cut it in half yourself?
Yeah.
So you customized it?
Yeah, customized it.
Was it the red one, the small bike that I've seen pictures of you in back here?
Yeah.
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 Okay, so you cut it in half and...
Yeah, so that was fun. But mainly with the airplane, the big 6-place one, we did a lot of work for missionary work.
Mm-hmm.
We flew to Arizona all the time. We were in the United Christian Pilots, and we would fly several airplanes over there, and we work at this one mission, well, 2 different missions that we had over there, and we worked there with that. And that was interesting because it was a school where Indians was at, Indian kids, and they stayed there. They slept there and ate there, but it was a church organization, and so that we went over there several times.
When you say you guys worked there, what did you do exactly? Was it like bringing them supplies of some sort?
No, we went over there to do repairs on their buildings or their vehicles or anything else that they needed, because they had a lot of things going on there.
And maybe some of them didn't know how to fix simple things because they weren't taught.
Well,
so the
kids couldn't fix things, so it was up to the adults running it, and they didn't have the time to do it.
or maybe the tools either,
and
right?
the tools, yeah. So,
I see.
so we'd take work parties over there and repair things.
That's nice.
So that was the United Christian Pilots, and we were with the United Christian Pilots for, oh gosh, quite a few years.
More than a decade, even.
Oh yeah, sure,
Oh wow.
sure.
Do they still have that organization?
No, it folded up because it got so expensive for people flying, and when we moved up here to Big Bear, why, it kind of folded up.
I see.
I was running it. I was the president of it, and so it kind of went away.
I see. Well,
Yeah.
sounds like you did a lot when you could, though.
Yeah,
so
we
that's
did
good.
what we could do at the time, and we'd take, we'd load our plane up with hundreds of gifts and fly them down to Mexico and give them to a pastor down there.
Uh-huh.
Then he handed them out to the people.
I see.
So we did a lot of different things with the Christian Pilots.
So speaking of Christian, I know your parents were Christians, and I kind of heard a little bit about Don going to, I think it was the Salvation Army when he was young, some hall where they had games and whatnot.
Yeah, and I was only 6 or so.
Yeah. Is that how you became a Christian? Was because you went to the same place where he did, that hall where they had games, or was it
No,
because in your own way?
I didn't even know anything about that. I was only 5 or 6 when we moved to San Bernardino.
From Santa Barbara, yeah.
And we moved there because my dad, he barely was able to make ends meet in Santa Barbara. There was just no work there, so he got a job with a Christian outfit, Broomcrist and Wiedemann, there in San Bernardino, which is a wholesale produce outfit, and they had about 30 trucks, and so he was a mechanic there. My
I
dad
see.
was.
Yeah.
So that's why we moved to San Bernardino.
And then did you start going to church yourself? Is that kind of how you became
Oh, yeah,
a
we
believer, I guess?
Yeah, I went to church as a kid
Yeah.
all the way through.
I know there are people, I don't know if it's lots of people or a little bit of people, but I know some people, they go to church, but they don't ever believe necessarily.
Yeah.
Did
no.
anything ever happen to you to really solidify you as a believer?
Yeah, I accepted the Lord when I was, gosh, just a young kid, I was 8 or 9, something like that.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, it was interesting. So that was good.
Do you, this is a question that I actually heard someone ask in another video, and I thought it was interesting. How do you know that what is written in the Bible is true? I know that's a big-ended question, but that's quite a really good, I thought it was a really good question. I heard a guy ask someone once, how do you know what's written in the Bible is true, or that the Bible is true? I thought that's an excellent question.
Yeah, well, there are so many things in the Bible that they don't contradict too many things. In other words, one part of the Bible will verify another part of the Bible
Mm-hmm.
to make the fact that it's a true thing. And so it's we know that there are many things that happen throughout time, and in the Bible there was too many things that happened that it just wasn't accidental. Just like today, in the last days it says that we will see the Israeli people come back together, and like President Trump, he is supporting them 100%. And that is true right down to the wire of what's in the Bible. So the relationship and the validity of things happening today is very, very close.
Mm-hmm.
And what's in the Bible, it verifies it.
I see.
So that's and the last days here, like everything that's happening, it's just a verification. It's like well, back if you'd listened to Perry Stone, he's a teacher back east, and he teaches the fact that the similarities between Noah and today's world, which is the last days, we believe, are just parallel. Everything is parallel to what is happening now as to what happened then.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very true.
Did you think, I don't know, this might be something to think about, when you were younger, did you ever imagine that you would grow older and maybe see something like the end of days? I'm sure you read about it or thought about it, but did you ever think, I might live long enough to see something like that?
Well, yeah, I believe that I would live long enough, but I thought that I had thought that the Lord the rapture would have taken place years and years and years ago. But it didn't, because all the things that has to happen in the world, according to the Bible, what it says, hadn't happened yet.
Mm-hmm.
But it's here with us today. That's for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So have you ever had any or heard about some really exceptional spiritual experiences? Because some people, they see things in their life on the spiritual realm, or they hear things like voices, or they've heard of some crazy or phenomenal experiences that maybe someone else they know has had.
Oh, right.
So I don't know.
Well, we know that a lot of people that I've read articles on, and Sid Roth, which is on Mondays and Wednesdays. Sid Roth, you ever watch?
Yeah, it's amazing. I think with Sid Roth
Amazing
or something like that.
Things happening, and he brings on some people that the things that's happened to them is just astronomical.
Yeah.
I mean, people praying over people that are dead, and they come back to life. That just can't happen,
right.
Naturally. So things that Sid Roth, and then the healings that have taken place. I watch Sid Roth every week, and it's just astronomical, the wonderful things that happen.
Yeah.
From what he's telling us. And I believe it. It's not that it's fairy tales. It's believable. Especially, and then it parallels what the last days is told to us in the Bible.
Mm-hmm. Now, have you yourself ever had any experiences? Like, for example, someone I asked said that they'd heard a evil laugh somewhere in their home, and so they went over, and they believe it was maybe demonic, so they went and prayed over the house and put, anointed it and whatnot. And that was something personal that they experienced. But
well, we've Bonnie, in our travels, we've went through many of these things, praying over houses that people live in. They have problems, and that really helps it out when they pray over the house or the surroundings that they live in.
Yeah.
And we see people that have healed, and like today now, when we get together, Bonnie will tell about a situation that she saw before we ever moved to Big Bear.
Oh.
Of a happening.
It's something a vision she had many years ago before you even moved up here.
Yes.
Has she ever shared it with anyone besides you, obviously, because it sounds like you know about it.
She shared it with people, but not too many. I don't think the family knows much, has heard it. So she'll share that.
Without letting the cat out of the bag, because I know she'll talk more about it. Is there a reason why she hasn't told anyone, or is that something I guess we could go into when she reveals it?
Well,
I don't want to let it out of the cat out of the bag.
No, it's not that. It's not letting the cat out of the bag. It's just the fact that sometimes, John, we you know, even some of our kids, they don't want to hear about it.
Yeah.
If they don't want to hear about it, well,
What can you do,
I
right?
can't force them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just one of those things that's unthinkable, you know. But
Yeah.
I can't knock people in the head and force them to believe.
No.
It's that simple.
It's like that saying: you can take the horse to the water, but you can't make him drink.
Can't
right?
make them drink. That's right. Yeah.
You can only offer the gift, but it doesn't mean that they'll
Yeah.
take the gift.
I can remember happening when I was, oh gosh, I don't know, probably in my 20s or so. I kept, you know, we know what gold is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And gold is solid and things like that. I asked the Lord, I said, well, how can we have in heaven everything could be gold, and how would that look? And so I had a small vision of that, and it was very realistic. And what it was showed me a small vision of heaven, and the everything was, it was gold, but it was clear as glass, but
Huh.
gold.
Yeah, it was both.
Both.
like gold glass, I guess.
Yeah. Like gold glass, and it was shaped and curved. Everything was smooth, and everything was realistic. So I had that vision when I was real young of heaven.
Does it, speaking of which, does it say in the Bible anywhere about people seeing heaven? Because I know, for example, there's a pastor, Jeff Durbin. He's a guy out in Arizona, and someone asked him a similar question. I think it was him, and he had a really good response in saying that, well, there's not a lot about heaven in the Bible, but there sure is a lot about the other place written in the Bible, which is a place I never want to go to. But do you know offhand? Because I don't know offhand myself, but that's why I'm asking you. Is it in the Bible anywhere written about heaven? People that maybe had visions, or
Well, yeah, there's quite a bit in there about heaven, but it tells about how things are, but you see, the Lord that has a difficult time, I would say. Forgive me for saying difficult, but I believe that our pea-brain mind, no matter how intelligent we are, I don't think that we can even comprehend how things will be. We don't have a snowball of an idea. It's like Dr. Eby, which he went to our church down in Ontario, where before we moved up here. He's dead now, but he had two visions, and they were fantastic. And he was in heaven. He picked flowers, and he was telling all about it, what he saw and how it was. And it's just the little bit that he told us was unthinkable. And so I think that I don't believe in the Bible itself. It tells about heaven, but I don't believe it's telling the exact way things will be.
mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, oh gosh, when I lived in El Segundo, I went to church down there. Virginia and I, you remember her, of course.
I know who she is, but no, I never got to meet her because I think Mom was a teenager, right, when she when she died. So,
yeah.
But I mean, I know who she is. Yeah, through
And
pictures.
So we went down there. We were living there, and I told the pastor there. I says, well, it tells us in the Bible that we'll be eating in heaven, and he was nice, and he said, well, yeah, I don't really know that we will be, because if we do, then what would we do with the poop that we'd have, see? And I'm, okay, but my take on it is anything that we'll be eating, it would be perfect, and it won't have anything left over.
To go through us, yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think that we'll have, when we're there, I don't think that we will be, well, there won't be any need for bathrooms, because we won't be urinating or pooping.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Right. Imagine how much better life would be if we didn't have to do that.
That's my opinion, and I don't have anything to base that on.
I understand.
But I that's the way I think, and that's the way, if you have super intelligence, you say, well, how could you be eating things? It has to be something left over. Well, but we're not eating God's food, see? So that's, and man can't, no matter how much intelligence he has, he can't really resolve that in his mind. And it's like, okay, a good example of that would be, I was talking with a Christian friend of mine up here that we have lunch with after church, and he said, well, there's going to be a bunch of dead bodies when the rapture takes place. I said, oh, well, maybe, but I don't think so. Because if we look at Christ, he was in, his dead body was in the tomb, and it was in there, and he was resurrected, and there was no body left. He's, all the wrapping that was around him, there was like 40, 50 pounds of resin and cloth that was wrapped around his body.
And oil too, I know.
And oil.
He was
and
buried
salt.
like a king.
Yeah. Okay, that was, and when they came back to the tomb, there wasn't a dead body there, and the wrappings that was around him was just like you'd taken a hypodermic needle, sucked the body out, because they just fell there and they were there.
Yeah.
They didn't go, but the body did.
Right.
So I think that when the rapture takes place, I believe that he will change our physical bodies to a spiritual body, and it tells us that in the Word. It tells us that. It'll change it to a body just like Christ.
Do you know where it says it? Do you know which book in the Bible? Or I don't. I'm just curious.
I can't pull it off the top of my head, but
Okay.
I know it does tell us we will be like him.
Yeah.
That's what it says.
Okay. Okay.
It says we will be like him. So if we will be like him, there isn't going to be a bunch of dead bodies all over the world laying around.
Yeah.
They will be changed, then they will go.
Right.
And in a scientific world, you say, how can that happen? I can't answer that. Only God can. But it will happen that way. At least that's my opinion. And it will happen that way. And when it's in that glorified body, then he'll take us. And it'll happen, it tells us it'll happen in an instant.
Like
In
a
a
thief
blink
in
of
the
an
night?
eye.
Isn't that what it says? Like a thief in the night?
In the thief of the night, he'll take us. And even in the Bible, it shows us that the world was round, because it says that It'll take some people that are sleeping, and other people would be out in the field working. So that, on each side of the world. And the same thing with their bodies. They'll be changed instantly. How? Scientifically, I can't answer that. However, in a lot of people that, like Jesse Duplantis, he had a 4-hour encounter in heaven. And a lot of things like we will be approximately 33 years old. Everybody will. We're not going to have a bunch of old people,
Mm-hmm.
and we're not going to have a bunch of young people. Everybody will be 33. That's the consensus of how things will, and that's people that have made trips to heaven. That's kind of the way they say it.
Yeah. I know that certain specific religions, like Seventh-day Adventist and I think others as well, they believe that you don't go to heaven or hell and that you're asleep until the rapture and whatnot. Do you think that that's true, considering when we hear, like what you said, this guy had an experience where he went somewhere?
Well, not really, because in the Word it tells us that if we die before the rapture, we go to Jesus
Yeah.
instantly, not years later. And so when the rapture takes place, those that have already went to heaven will come back into their original body, I guess, and then it'll be translated to a new body, and then they'll go, just like the ones that are alive.
Mm-hmm.
That's assuming the way it'll happen. So that's kind of the way it is.
I see.
That's the way I see it.
Are you familiar with, or what are your thoughts about, if you are familiar with, like, for example, in Genesis 6, it talks about giants, and in the days of when Moses sent out his scouts to look in the land, and they said they came back and said, "Oh, we were like grasshoppers, but to the giant men there."
Yeah.
Have you ever heard about that, and what do you think about it? Is it true?
I can give you a disc that'll explain that a lot.
Okay.
Perry Stone explains it a lot
Okay.
of what happened back in the flood time.
Mm-hmm.
And he explains exactly what happened to the giants and his theory on it. It's very good.
I
Perry
know.
Stone, I don't know if you ever heard of him.
I know you mentioned him like a few minutes ago, but I'm not sure if I've heard of him.
Yeah.
But I know there are other people that have theories about it, which may be the same as his. It'll be interesting to hear that. So it makes me think of the book of Enoch, how it's not included in the Bible and whatnot.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that? Do you think any of those books have legitimacy and they were left out maybe when they shouldn't have been? Or I wonder about things like that myself. I don't know.
Well, I think that man makes mistakes.
Yeah.
We're human. As long as we're on this earth, we're going to make mistakes as we live life. We want to be living a Christian, but as we live our Christian life, we make mistakes because we're human and we're on this earth.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't been changed. But that's why, we all make mistakes. But we try not to if we're a Christian. And that's the way it should be. But things are like those books that were left out. There's validity. I think that there's some validity to them. And they had many, many men deciding whether to put them in or not to put them in. And so maybe they made some mistakes. I don't know.
Yeah.
They're human.
I know there's the Council of Nice, they call it, with Constantine when they decided a lot of those things.
Yeah.
And I know I always wondered, well, what gave him the right to think, and those guys to decide all that? And it's just a question I like to ask to get people's thoughts about it all. So,
Sure.
Because I know there are people that don't believe those books belong in there, and maybe they don't even know why, but it's just interesting to ask that.
Yeah.
So.
They're not in there because certain men decided not to, but were they right or wrong? I can't answer it. I don't know.
Yeah. So one question I wanted to ask you was something that RL had mentioned the last interview. He said that Virginia had some premonition about what happened to his cousins, Don's kids. What did he mean by that? Do you know what I'm talking about? That she had a dream or something about the kids? Does that sound familiar? Do you know what he's?
Yeah, I know all about it.
Because I don't know what he meant by that, so I wanted to ask.
I know all about it. I've never told Don that.
Oh.
I wouldn't tell him that.
Okay.
That would make him.
Well, I won't tell him.
I wouldn't tell him. Because I don't know that he would want to believe it. Okay, so what? Okay, it's kind of a long story. One night we were in bed by Virginia and I. She woke up screaming and yelling. Oh, what's wrong? Well, I was shown a dream that Don and Larry had a terrible accident and were killed. I said, oh, really? And this was before the accident.
Was it a long time before the accident? Like years? Or maybe you don't remember? I'm just curious.
I don't remember, but it was probably 3 or 4 years before the accident.
Yeah.
And so then time went on and Virginia was gone, and it did happen.
Oh, so it happened after she was gone.
Yes.
I didn't know that. Huh. That's
Yes.
interesting.
And so then I still didn't know why it happened.
You mean after the accident happened, you were wondering why did she have that dream? No, before the accident happened, you were thinking, why did she have that dream she told me about?
No.
No?
She had the dream and I believed it, and then it happened and I accepted the fact that she had the dream.
Uh-huh.
Well, before the kids were killed and before she died, we talked back and forth to try to say, well, should we tell Don and Madeline? And we couldn't come to a conclusion as to what to do. We couldn't decide whether to tell them or not tell them.
Mm-hmm.
So we never did. So then she passed away, and it was year and a half after that she passed away that it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so I married Norma. You remember Norma?
No. I've seen pictures of her, but...
I married Norma, and Norma's brother was married to Nadine's sister's daughter.
Okay.
And she was very close to Donna, and so Donna had married Donna, I think, married after Virginia died.
Okay.
I think she married this John, and they got married, and they had a little one, and the first time she had ever left the little one with anybody, and I didn't know all this till I had married Norma, and she told me all about it. And what happened was Donna was upset about the marriage. It wasn't what she had expected, I guess. I'm guessing. I suspect, personally, I suspect the husband was homosexual.
Did you have reasons to believe that? Did you have like
my spirit would tell me that.
Oh.
Because I can sense that. So anyway, Donna was upset at her marriage, and she went down to Newport Beach somewhere to visit an old boyfriend that she knew before. She visited with him, but she took her brother because she didn't want anything going on. So she took her brother just as kind of a security. That's what I was told. And she did, and then on the way back, she was riding in the outside lane of the 22 freeway. I don't know if you know all this.
Yeah,
And
that's a slow lane? When you say the outside,
slow
the slow lane, yeah.
And a car from coming the other way come clear over and head on hit her. Killed her instantly.
How old was she? Like early 20s or mid 20s, or was she?
22.
She was very young then. And he was a teenager, I think.
And he was 15.
Oh my gosh.
And so he lived a few days, a couple of weeks, I think, a week and a half. Then he died. He had brain injury. So Norma told me all about it, and I was surprised, but she knew why Donna visited this boyfriend. And I wouldn't tell my brother because I'd talked to him about it, but I didn't tell him any of that.
Yeah.
And he said, well, Donna was down paying some bills on the school she went to. Well, that isn't what she was doing at all. He wasn't told the truth. So then, okay, before that happened though, before they were killed, Virginia died. And Don, at the funeral of Virginia, Don came up to me and he said, well, you know, Richard, if you and Virginia hadn't went skiing all that amount of time, we were skiers.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't gone skiing all that time, she wouldn't have died. I didn't say anything to Don. I don't even know what he meant. It was dumb to me.
Huh. That's an odd thing to hear.
I just kind of overlooked it. I said, oh, really? I just said, oh, really? That's all I said.
Yeah.
I could never figure it out. And it's because Don believes that if you miss a church service, you're going to hell. Well, I don't believe that. That's not what the Lord expects out of us. And we didn't go that skiing that much. We went once in a while, and maybe on a Sunday we missed. But big deal, you see.
Yeah.
So, that's just one of those things.
Well, I'm sure it's safe to say on the flip side of that, there's probably plenty of people that have gone to church every Sunday or will go to church every Sunday, and it doesn't mean they're going to get into heaven.
Yeah. So it's 12:06.
Yeah.
We
okay. There's one thing I was going to tell you that was interesting that I noticed when I watched the first interview, which was about 9 years ago. You had said towards the end of it that you didn't, when I asked you about what things you used to do at work and the projects you worked on and whatnot, and you kind of mentioned to me that you didn't really, after moving up here, you didn't really talk to anyone about that because they're not really into those things or they didn't understand it. But I think it's very interesting and great that now you have your good buddy Bill, because I don't think you knew him then, and you could probably talk to him about things now.
Who?
Bill? You didn't know him 9 years ago, did you?
Oh no, we've only known him 7 years.
So I think it's interesting that 9 years ago you didn't have anyone to talk to about those things, or people weren't really interested. But
Well,
I suspect he's semi-interested. See how things change.
I worked at such a scientific world that the average person wouldn't even understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's, I can explain it, but they're,
Doesn't mean they'll get it.
yeah, and I worked in a laser electro-optics for many years, which was very interesting, and then I worked in the scientific side of generating computer chips and small chips, and if I try to explain how we do it or what we do, 99% of the people wouldn't even know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So when we moved up here, I didn't find anybody that would. So I didn't really have
An audience, I suppose.
yeah, but I didn't have to talk about it. I mean, big deal.
Yeah. But I'm just saying it's probably something you wouldn't imagine that you would have met, had a good friend and met Bill, and he's probably at least someone you can talk to about some of those things. So that's
yeah,
good.
Bill is he was in the banking business.
Yeah, I remember.
And he was over several banks,
Yeah.
B of A banks. He was over, I don't know, many. And so he was in a different category than I was. So it really wasn't the same.
Yeah.
But he and I get along just fine, so
Yeah.
which is good.
Well, I guess I mean more specifically, I'm sure he had lots of questions for you going through all those boxes. You were probably able to tell him, well, this does that and this does
Yeah.
this. I'm sure there
Yeah.
are lots of questions.
And we had I don't know, a couple 250 banana boxes, and I've gotten rid of all but about, I don't know, maybe 10. And I did give a lot of the stuff to, I picked up a lot of it at the salvage sales where I worked. And I wanted to do a lot of things like that scientifically, but I just haven't had time. Bonnie and I have been involved in the church work, and that's the way we go.
Mm-hmm.
And but I did find a Christian guy up here, and I gave all this stuff to him. I gave it to him, and it was a lot of good stuff. But I gave it to him because he is in that kind of field in the Christian realm. And he himself had worked for Kenneth Copeland, and he makes all the sound equipment and the video equipment and things like that. So, so that's what he does.
I see.
And so then he took all that stuff, and I was glad to give it to him, and he was tickled pink because he could use it. A lot of the stuff he could use.
Yeah.
But Bill and I, we still do the videoing at the church. We do the sound, but we do the videoing. So
That's good. Do you have any favorite songs, like hymns or any songs? I asked Don the same question just out of curiosity, and he mentioned like an Andre Crouch song, for example. But
Oh yeah, Andre Crouch, you
Uh-huh.
know, and used to sing a lot of Andre Crouch songs.
do you have favorites? A few favorite Andre Crouch songs?
No, not I can't. I can't pull it off the top of my head, but yeah, there's a lot of, you know, a lot of his songs are very, very good.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And he's dead, you know.
Yeah, I know. Didn't he die? I think last year he died, right?
Yeah.
Something like
A
that.
year ago or 2
Yeah,
years,
I
something.
think it was last year. I thought,
Yeah.
oh, that's too bad. I don't think he was that old either.
I knew him personally.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
How did you meet him?
Through a friend of mine, and I met him that first time that way, and then the next time I met him at a music conference down on the boat down there in Long Beach, the
Queen Mary?
Queen Mary.
Okay.
They had a music conference, and I was shooting pictures for them. And I finished shooting the pictures, and Norma and I was on our way out to go home, and Andre Crouch was there, and he stopped and chatted with him, and he was real nice guy,
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's a great.
real nice guy.
All right. Well, we'll wrap it up, and maybe we could do another interview another time and think of
Sure.
some more questions.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Thanks again.
Okay.
All right. So we'll go see where everybody's at.
Yeah. So, anyway.